What is going on, guys? PoliticsGaming here, and today we are bringing back a brand new update for the 2020 edition. I know you guys have been eagerly awaiting this release of this DLC. I know every single time they release a DLC for this game, I know you guys are eagerly awaiting on my channel for these updates and for the game to release itself. So, if anything, what I'm actually going to go ahead and do today, I'm going to go ahead and give you an update, and I'm going to go ahead and talk about some of the features that we might actually be seeing in Power & Revolution 2020. So in terms of release date, we are actually possibly looking at before or during October of this year. So basically what we are going to be doing is we are going to have the 2020 edition possibly late September, early October. In any case, worst case scenario, it's going to come out in November, or like possibly on election day, if they really want to shoot for something like that, because kind of looking at some of their release patterns, they have actually released it on significant days, including the inauguration of Donald Trump for the 2017 edition. So in this one, maybe we could actually see, in a worst case scenario, we could actually see a release date on November 3rd, 2020, which would actually be the exact day that there is an election happening in the United States. So since we've already talked about the release date, let's go ahead and talk about some of the features that we might be seeing in the 2019 edition. Now, something that we're going to be seeing in this one that's going to be extremely big and prevalent that you're going to have to deal with is the simulation of the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, it is still unknown whether this scenario will be an actual independent scenario or whether it will be on the free mode rulers scenario. Because whenever you're coming into the 2020 edition, basically whenever we got into 2020, we went through the COVID-19 pandemic. So it would make sense if in the free mode ruler, it would be something that would be something you can deal with as a nation in the free mode ruler. And maybe there could be some sort of leeway around it. Maybe if you really don't want to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic, you can turn it off somewhere. So in terms of that, what are we going to be seeing in the simulation of the COVID-19 pandemic? What we could actually see in the simulation of a COVID-19 pandemic, in terms of the way Eversim has put it, they actually are wanting to simulate the economic catastrophe that has been happening over the past couple of months, basically, in terms of the COVID-19 pandemic. So what they are saying is that they are trying very hard, and it's probably why it's taking them so long, because they're trying to simulate this and make sure that like at least 5 to 10 years will go by extremely smoothly for the player. That's possibly why they're taking so long in this, because I mean it takes you so long just to get through 1 year in game. So I mean, I can't imagine if they're trying to simulate the years down the road of the economic effects of this, then I can't imagine what that's going to be like. So it's still unknown what we're going to be, but I'm actually kind of assuming right now. And something that would actually be really cool, and maybe this could be a suggestion list, I don't know if it's too late for that, but basically I'm going to go ahead and start making a couple of guesses for y'all. So first feature that we're possibly going to be looking at is going to be lockdowns. Obviously, lockdowns were extremely controversial in the United States and possibly across the world, especially in the United Kingdom, France, Germany. They all were actually doing some sort of lockdown. And in the United States, the social repercussions of this lockdown were so far felt that it's become a political issue, even though sometimes in some cases it shouldn't be a political issue. It has become a political issue in the United States. So the simulation of a lockdown, there would be protests that would be coming out, there would be a lot of people, and then in terms of protesting, whenever you're actively dealing with this pandemic, it would actually be really interesting if you were actually able to have these jumps in the infection rates. Now, something that would actually be really interesting is that if we go over to the health bar, and then unless we have our own COVID-19 tab, we would be looking at all of this through the health and social security tab. Possibly be going over here, and then we would be seeing something in terms of like daily infections, death rates, anything like that for the COVID-19 pandemic. It would probably make a little more sense if we actually had something below this, below health and social security and above the work tab, for specifically COVID-19. Now, in terms of other things, lockdowns could actually be cool. Now, unless there's just going to be one flat lockdown that we're going to have, hopefully what we are actually going to be looking at is going to be something where it's basically like a hierarchy, where it's kind of like you do one thing, and then if that doesn't work, you do the next thing, and then you kind of like phase it. So like just how the United States, and especially states like Texas, California, New York, they're all doing these things called phasing. Basically, we could actually do the exact same thing. So in terms of like some sort of lockdown, we could actually go from like, you know, limiting social gatherings, we could stop public transportation, we could do all these national efforts. Now, one of the downsides of that is I know EverSim does not simulate the power between the federal United States government and the states. Now, something we are not going to be able to see is we're probably not going to be seeing numbers specifically for each region of your country, and that's probably going to be in terms of like what it's like in France. They're probably just going to be looking at it from a national point of view, and that's like kind of the way I see it, because since it is a French company, they focus on how their system of government works. So some of the things that is actually as a playability viewpoint, we are kind of like playing in some sort of French kind of scenario, because I mean, if you go over to health, the game acts like the United States has some sort of like single payer system, which it does not. Obviously, everyone knows this. Most of this money, $843 billion, is just going into other things. People still have to pay their doctors, pay their hospital treatments if they don't have insurance. So another thing actually we could actually probably get in the 2020 edition is maybe the simulation of health insurance, possibly even other features related to the United States situation with healthcare. Maybe we can actually have some healthcare reform bills in this next version. So that's actually going to be something that I'm really excited for, especially in this next coming scenario where we're definitely going to be dealing with the economy a lot more, and we're going to be dealing with a public health crisis. Now in the next one, we actually would probably have some sort of simulation with the spread of the disease, and I actually went into this earlier, in which we could actually go over to this one, and possibly we would have daily infection rates, daily death rates, we would have some sort of analysis on the how much of the population has been infected by COVID-19. We could actually have some sort of viral outbreak in which it spreads through the United States at a impossible or just terrifying rate if it were to happen in real life. Now, in terms of bugs, we probably are going to have a lot of bugs in this next version, and honestly, if I will actually be featuring the 2020 edition on my channel exactly when it releases, the day it releases, I will live stream on my channel. So if you don't want to buy it and you want to see what it's like, please come to my channel, and I will definitely be live streaming for you guys on that day. Now, the next one would actually have to be the economic repercussions of a lockdown. Now, in real life, whenever the United States actually locked down, we lost hundreds of billions of dollars of productivity just because of the lockdown. Now, in terms of that, since we're actually going to be starting at the beginning of the year of 2020, hopefully, because maybe it's kind of like some sort of viral thing that kind of comes out of China, and then the Chinese, it kind of like spreads over to South Korea, then Japan, and you kind of have these like people, your health secretary, or you have a task force, a specific task force, telling you, saying, hey, this is what's going on with the COVID-19 pandemic. The WHO, maybe there's actually going to be a lot more. We have the WHO right here, and that could actually be a better thing, since we have the United Nations and the EU as organizations. Maybe we can actually have just one specific thing where we're dealing with the WHO and with public health crises, not only COVID-19, but other public health crises, as well as smaller outbreaks in countries like Africa, in Asia, and Europe, something like that. And then lastly, we're going to be watching the years following the pandemic, including economic shockwaves from that exact pandemic. Now, what we are looking at right now in real life, we are looking at something where we are feeling the immediate effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. We are still spending money trying to stop the economy from crashing. Whether that's working or not, I don't know. We are looking at a very, very bad debt situation in the future after we recover from this pandemic. And we are looking at some sort of just higher interest rates. We are looking at a lot of situations with this. It's probably going to make the United States a little bit more difficult to play, as you could actually, maybe you could send out stimulus checks, you can send out all this money, and how much you actually spend on this could actually depend on your efficiency and on how good you are against this pandemic. So in terms of that, that could actually be something really cool. If you could actually just send money out, you could actually lower taxes and maybe get a little bit more congressional support on certain bills. So that could actually be something really cool to simulate. And then we are definitely going to be seeing the economic shockwaves of that in the years following. Not only in 2020, maybe in 2025 or something like that, then we actually have a lot of people coming back and saying like, hey, something happened to me, like this isn't right, like you screwed me over 5 years ago. So hopefully we actually get something like that in the future. And then in next terms, we actually have some more military units coming up. So these are going to be brand new units in which possibly we're going to be looking at a different side of career soldiers. Not only are we going to have these career soldiers, we're going to be able to form these guys into squads. So hopefully we actually can organize our militaries. We can actually maybe even have, you know, like states militaries. You have like all the guys over here in these cities and at Fort Bragg. Basically you would actually have like some sort of a regiment that you could actually send off from North Carolina into, like, I don't know, Bermuda. If something happened in Bermuda or something like that, then that could actually be really cool. And then other than that, maybe we could actually, in terms of, since we are getting squads, maybe we can actually also have motorized battalions as well. Because motorized, if you actually, because that's actually already what they are, because they're already in the cars anyway. So maybe we'll get some new units, maybe some trucks, maybe something like that. That would actually be really interesting. And then my very, very favorite one that we're actually probably going to see in 2020 is going to be missile silos. Now, the only ways to launch nuclear missiles right now in the game is actually by authorizing your chief of state to actually, not your chief of state, your chief of army, to actually authorize a nuclear strike. Now, then you have to go over to a missile launcher, which is kind of weird because it's kind of like going to one of your ballistic missile launchers. So then you would have to go to your missile launchers, get one of them, get them to launch a missile, and then launch it at your target. But then you have to get very, very close, because the only ways you can actually drop nuclear bombs is either by getting a nuclear submarine close enough, getting one of your missile launchers close enough, or sending in a jet from very, very far away. We do not have strategic bombers in this game. Now, one of the things that could actually solve this issue is by the addition of missile launchers or missile silos. So something that I'm very excited for is just to see the missile silos dotting the plains of Colorado, Nebraska, Kansas, South Dakota, North Dakota, Montana. The United States has a lot of missile silos. I think like 70% of our nuclear arsenal is based in these areas right here. So that's going to be really cool to see those dot the plains. And then hopefully, just like in Supreme Ruler, we will be able to launch just by the press of a button and annihilate each other in massive nuclear exchanges between the United States and Russia. And lastly, one of the biggest changes that we are looking at in this next scenario, we're looking at the legislative options to change the political system of your country. Now, in terms of that, an example that is listed on the website is changing a republic to a monarchy. So what we could actually do is we could go over to political parties, we could go over to my party, and then we could change some of the laws in regards of that, regulate the funding of political parties, determine the legality of the state with regard to political parties, then we could, maybe there's going to be a new option right here, or it's going to be its own option altogether. We have some legislation right here in terms of political parties, then we could switch it over to something like that, or it could actually pop up over maybe in head of state, and then go over to Constitution. Maybe it probably would make a lot more sense to put this option right here. So we have the nomination of the head of state appointed for life, or we could have another option where it basically allows us to become a king. So in terms of that, that's going to be really exciting to have that, just a little bit more options to actually change political systems legally and like efficiently, just so the people can actually maybe even support your cause. If anyone wants to see a King Donald Trump, please let me know and I can do that kind of series. But anyway, yeah, so that is going to be my video for today. So if you guys like that, go ahead and leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and I will see you guys in the next video where we could talk about more. I will be posting more United States episodes very, very soon. And whenever 2020 releases, I will definitely be live streaming for you guys whenever that happens. So again, leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new, put the bell up notification icon for that live stream that is going to be coming up whenever this releases, and I'll see you guys there. Thank you guys so much for watching, and take care.